was supposed to reopen, but they thought the plant was going to close. Without giving you a long story short, at the end of the day, the land use committee voted to not make a motion and to pass it on to council for the implementation of making such decisions. So that's it in a nutshell. If anybody has any questions, I can answer.
Questions?
Hey, Dean. Since they turned it over to us, I'd like to make a motion. And my motion would be to write a letter to Iris, Chief Department of Regional Planning, and to Mike Antonovich, our District Supervisor. The letter would state the CATC Land Use Committee held a hearing on August 14, 2014. At that meeting, residents from Catc gave testimony regarding the draft EIR for project R2004-05599-5, schedule number 2005081071. And I'd like to say, due to the overwhelming response by the community, our CAT recommends that the draft EIR be rejected.
I can second that.
Okay, first of all, we're not on the landfill item yet. So, I don't know, are you asking the land use committee to write a letter?
Mama,
No, it's based on what happened at the land use meeting. I'd like this motion.
Okay. If you look under the landfill committee, on the agenda tonight, there's a status report. It is not an action item. The landfill itself has asked us, because the comment period at your request was extended through September 23rd, the landfill has asked for time to answer the community's concerns. And so this is not an actionable item tonight. We wanted to bring, they want to try to answer some of Valverde's concerns and come back in the September meeting before us to ask for our support in the expansion and the draft EIR.
Well, since they
And I might also point out that that's a possibility for a vote in September, but we also had some people from the Valverde community that said we shouldn't vote until the final EIR. So I'm considering that as well, but go ahead.
Yeah, what I'd like, the reason I want to make this motion is because it's hard for the community to come out here that came out, and it's the Catc community. It wasn't, the invitation was to hold Catc. We put it on our I guess we put it on the website, right? We noticed it, so people from all of Catc could have came out, and it was unanimous. It was that they don't want it, and that's why I want to make this motion, because it was unanimous. It wasn't half one, half one.
And again, you're talking about what happened at the land use meeting, not what's happened in front of our council, because all of the council members here weren't able to hear that testimony.
6 of 10 of us did. And if we don't decide we don't want to come to those, it's our responsibility not to come to them. But we don't want to, it's okay.
Yeah, but we're not required to come to them. The whole idea is that it goes before land use and then comes before the council as a whole. We're not doing that yet. We're kind of ahead of the game.
I thought Dean pretty much said that the whole group was against it.
Right, so what you had was 24 residents come out that spoke against it in a community of a couple thousand people. And so, understandably, we wouldn't have a high school going forward today if 20 or 30 residents from a local community came out and said, we don't want the school, and that's the only input we took. We wouldn't have a school today because traditionally, if there is some local development going on that's not a housing development, but a school or a landfill or a recycling center, whatever it is, the people that come out are the neighbors that don't want it, not in my backyard. That's typical. 95% of the people that will show up will be the people against it. So that's not necessarily an accurate reflection. Now I understand Valverde's not for it, but it's not an action item on the agenda tonight.
Well, I think in all fairness, it is on the agenda, and I am giving a report as to what happened.
Okay.
And in all fairness, he's asking for the town council to write a letter to the board of supervisors explaining to them what happened at that meeting.
Yes.
And the motion is second, so I think that it's a legitimate motion. I may not agree with it. I personally don't agree with it, but I think there is a motion on the table. And I don't think you can say that you can't make a motion to send a letter to the supervisor.
Okay, but the motion will, didn't you say that the Castaic area town council does not support the expansion?
Yes, I did say that.
Right. But,
So
you're hearing something different.
clarify the motion?
So the motion says that we should write a letter to Iris Chief Department of Regional Planning and to Mike Antonovich, the district supervisor. Letter state that the CATC Land Use Committee held a hearing on August 14, 2014. At that meeting, residents from Castaic gave testimony regarding the draft EIR for project R2004-05599-5, schedule number 200-508-1071. Due to the overwhelming response by the community, our CATC recommends the draft EIR be rejected.
But he's making a motion under your heading, and it's not an action item.
I disagree. It's on the agenda, and I'm giving a report, and I got a report.
Flo,
I agree. I gave a report. Okay. He just wants to memorialize it in a letter to the supervisor.
Yes, and Flo,
Mr. Chairman, a point of order.
Wait, John,
Yeah, John, hold on.
Why do you keep interrupting me, John? Yeah, am I that, you just step all over me, John?
Okay.
Come on.
All right, well, then, he has the right to speak. You go ahead.
You know,
Wait, why does he have a right to speak?
Because he represents the landfill. He asked me to bring this issue before the council next month. That's why it's not on the agenda tonight. There is not a vote on this item. Go ahead, Greg.
Okay, so all I'm trying to say about this is I think that we've heard from the community. The community says they don't want this draft EIR as it stands. Doesn't say that they can't come back with another draft EIR that is acceptable. This is just what we're saying. The community has spoken, and we need to look
Yeah,
at
but
what
you say we've heard, Jeff wasn't there, Dawn wasn't there, John wasn't there, Kelly wasn't there.
Okay, but isn't the idea is we have these committees, and the committee listens to these, these items, and then the committee comes back and gives their recommendation to us. Isn't that how it's supposed to go?
Jeff, in your experience, did the town, you've been around longer than anyone else, has the town council always followed what the land use committee has recommended?
I spent 14 years on the Castaic area land use committee, and I don't believe they ever listened to the land use committee.
If I can chime in with it, I mean, I'd love to hear it also, because I hear what you're saying, and I'm sympathetic to what you're saying. If I mistake something, I'll apologize in advance. I had always looked, and I didn't get to the land use for a reason, but also never really intended them. But what I understand their function was, and Mr. Creech kind of just backed it up, is it's part of how we work, and they get information, they bring it back to us. But on my prior terms here, oftentimes we didn't follow what they did. I think what should have happened, and if I'm wrong, you still have your motion. I think that something possibly should have been done then. Maybe a request should have been made. I read the minutes and seen they were back and forth on a number of things, the committee members. But if they wanted to write something, I think they could have, plus they heard it, and you could have suggested a motion to them, or somebody could have made it. And while I'm very sympathetic to what you're saying, I don't think we can do that. I would be uncomfortable doing that since I wasn't there, although I read the stuff, and Jim Daria did a great job of putting those minutes together. And possibly, I don't know, we might be able to set something up with the next land use thing and raise that, because that's where it came out of. But I don't think this body can make that recommendation based upon land use where we didn't sit as a body. But I think land use might be able to do it. It could be brought back up, put on the agenda if you want to, and they could respond and word it any way you want. But I think that's the better way to go, because if not, we're going to have the Operation Snowflake people and the council to do this when they have a committee meeting and all of that. I just don't think it works that way. I could be wrong. And again, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I hear it very strongly. I don't know if we can do that.
And I guess the main reason why I wanted to make that motion today is we have a committee, and if the committee doesn't have any power, and that's kind of what they said at the meeting, which doesn't sound like the committee should have power. They should be able to recommend things or not recommend things.
That they can
They should
recommend things to us.
And if if it were 19 to 19, I'd say different. If it's 38 that said no, I think we should listen to the community, plus if the community's here, if you want to hear what they had to say, you can ask them.
You're saying there were 38 people that testified?
That's according to, well, it says in here, there were 38 people in attendance that were not, there were guests that were excluding project applicants.
Right.
And
But how many, again, just for accuracy, how many of the 38 testified?
You get 38 testified, we can count them right here.
Yeah,
I
that's
would-
not,
I
I'm
would
just,
say
just,
I had at least,
and again,
at this point, there's a motion on the table. I don't think you can go away. There's a second.
Mr. Chairman, as a point of order, as a project applicant, there's a process relative to the land use committee and how the town council deals with land use issues. And we have been following that process. We attended the land use committee last week. They made a recommendation for it to the town council. As such, we as the applicant need to ask for the town council date to be set for that. It has not been asked for, and it has not been properly public noticed according to the land use guidelines. So any action by the town council tonight on this project would actually be out of turn and out of the rules of the town council.
and again, these guys have offered to take time to answer the questions. I don't see how that's a bad thing. If we have the comment period for the draft DIR extended past our next meeting, how is that a bad thing if they're trying to deal with issues of odor and auto shredder and all the other questions that have been raised? That meeting was last Thursday. They're trying to come up with answers. I just think this is a rush to judgment. And I'm going to disagree with Dina. I just don't think if it's not an action item, I don't think you can vote to write it up. I just don't think that's how it works.
But
Kelly, let's-
your committee recommended that the
The
town
committee
council.
had no recommendation,
I'm wrong, but they said we're going to defer this to the Kester Air Town.
which is no recommendation, either for or against.
And just for the public record, the reason why they said no, basically the reason why they said no is because the Valverde rep was not allowed to be there. The Valverde rep was asked to be recused, or was asked to recuse himself, because he works for the YEL, which is the sheriff's department. They are paid by the CBFC, which is the Valverde CBFC, our Benefits Funding Committee, and the CBFC collects money from the landfill. It's a fixed amount of money that the landfill pays. It's an amount that was set in the 1997 agreement. Our rep could have said, this thing stinks, doesn't matter, the money's the same. We love it, the money's the same. And it just bugs me that a day before, our rep, one that Stephanie and I chose, was pretty much told, don't come by, don't do this. It's wrong, absolutely wrong. John, I don't know how much you have to do with this stuff, you know? Maybe you don't have anything to do with it, I don't know. Just it sounds awfully fishy.
I've been accused of a lot of things with this before, but that's overstepping the bounds, I think. Thank you.
It is overstepping the bounds, I just said.
And I
Sure
understand.
seems fishy.
Well, we're still in discussion,
Can I say something? Okay. All right, regarding the process, it's got a little misleading, okay? I've been to 2 of those meetings. I feel that I understand the motion and I appreciate the motion, but see, tonight we had received the minutes per email. But technically tonight is the first night that we received it. I don't feel that as a body, we should vote on any motion because we have to do the due process. Just because the people on the land use committee decided that their vote didn't count, which is not correct, doesn't mean that we're ready to push this forward. So basically, what I'm trying to say is whether we have to follow procedures, and so this is why we have committees. So we have a committee, they discuss it, they make a recommendation to us. Their recommendation is they had no recommendation. Well, guess what? Sometimes those committees do have recommendations. So then it comes here, and guess what? We have to hear it again, because that's the process. And every other body that this goes to, whether we recommend it or however we recommend it, it goes to those bodies until the final decision is made, not by us, not by those committees. So please don't get lost in that, okay? Because that is important. And regarding your, I guess your candidate, I'm sorry, what's his name, Jaime?
Yep, I agree on that.
Okay, sorry. Regarding Jaime, He was asked to recuse himself from voting, not from not sitting up here. He chose not to sit up here. He was never asked to not speak. He just was asked because they felt that there was a conflict of interest would happen sometime. He would not have a vote in that motion regarding the landfill.
Is that
Does that answer your question?
He was just told.
I did
told he
not-
could sit up here?
First of all, let me just clarify the record. First of all, I did not know who Penny was until 2 days before. I was told by a resident that he is employed and the money is funded by the Chiquita landfill. That is the definition of conflict of interest. I called you, we talked to you a little bit, I actually called Jaime to understand exactly who does he work for and where does the company gets the money from. And so I told him that was a conflict of interest, and I told him that he can be on the land use committee. I said he just cannot vote on the issue. He went off and he talked for about a half an hour of how ethical he is and how he can see things honestly. And I thought, oh, I completely agree with him. I said, I completely agree with him. But it's the appearance of the conflict. And so I didn't tell him he couldn't sit up here. I just told him he couldn't vote on the issue. We have another land use meeting coming up in September, and I expect him to be there. I also think that you and Stephanie could have, if you were interested in having somebody vote on this, you should have had somebody who wasn't being paid by the Chiquita landfill funds. So I think where we're at today, it's getting late. I completely agree with Sandia. I don't think it makes any sense for us to send a letter. We haven't, this is not even on the agenda, but the issue is on the agenda as my report on land use. So I do believe your motion is valid. I don't believe it makes sense, and I don't think, I wouldn't support it, because we just did get the minutes.
Well, another thing too I was going to say, and I'm sorry I forgot to say it, was that also too I think that the residents should allow the Chiquita Canyon landfill to respond to your comments, because I think that's important, so that you feel that you were heard. Because it is a process. And so in each section that you get to, you should be heard. So we are listening, okay?
I have a comment for you, Greg, and I sometimes feel funny, I don't tell you what to do from what I'm hearing here. I don't think this motion's going to pass, and then there's going to be something there that didn't pass, so you might want to consider withdrawing it. At public testimony, a number of the council people spoke on their own behalf, not as members of the council. I don't see any reason why you can't send a letter on your own behalf, noting you're a representative or you're speaking on your own, and attaching those minutes and having somebody review it. I think you might be better off than having a motion for here tonight, but that's the end of my discussion on it.
Okay, appreciate that. And based on that, I think I'm going to withdraw my motion. Reluctantly so, but I will withdraw the motion. And my whole point to this is, we have people here right now. At the next meeting, I don't know if they're going to show up. And if you guys really want to hear what the community has to say, we should listen to them right now, not wait till next month when they possibly don't show up.
We have a couple of requests to speak, and I appreciate withdrawing the motion. I think it's simply a matter of counting votes. I think that's a good thing. And there's something I want to address with the two Valverde representatives, and then we'll call up the people that have requested to speak. But I'm very troubled. The champion for Valverde seems to be Darrell Manzer, and he wrote a piece today, and there's a couple things in the piece that I'm going to, one, ask Mr. Musella. There's allegations that there's trucks that show up at 11:30 at night, leave early in the morning. I know in Catc that at night trucks will park anywhere they can pull in and sleep, because these guys don't drive at night. But I would like to find out what's going on with that, if in fact that is accurate. But what troubles me about Mr. Manzer, and this is almost an aside, he said, I'd asked the dump, but they don't have a record of honesty. And he's entitled to his opinion, but I don't know that he's ever been there or taken a tour or actually talked to anyone from the landfill. So it just troubles me that he writes all this stuff without kind of asking both sides for the facts. But what scared me because I'm worried about the safety of our community. Some of the stuff I'm hearing from the residents of Val Verde is right out of an old-fashioned gangster movie. Folks watching folks at their homes, other folks being followed, and sometimes sitting at a driveway of a resident. And so there are allegations that there's individuals or cars in Val Verde trying to intimidate or bully people, and that bothers me. So I'd like, if you have facts pertaining to that, can you please fill out a speaker form, and I'd like to hear that tonight. And in his column, he also said, then there was a meeting of the BVCA that was held in Fillmore because they thought some folks were out to do something. I presume when he says we're out to do something, that there was some kind of threat of harm or terrorist threat, but I'd like to ask you two first. Are people in Val Verde in danger? Has the landfill hired goons? I mean, this is pretty wild allegations from the champion of Val Verde, so I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Okay, so first thing with the Fillmore, I think our VBCA meeting was canceled last month, and you guys know, or this month I should say, because of the land use committee meeting, so it was canceled. So maybe there was some misunderstanding about our VBCA meeting in Fillmore, which never happened.
Okay, so that's not accurate.
So that's not accurate. There are residents in our community that have said that cars are parked in front of their houses, they walk up and they take off. And our community is very tight. You typically know who lives on your block, who doesn't. Weird cars coming up in front of your house, parking in front of your driveway, that's not normal in Val Verde.
All right, if there's any residents here tonight that experienced that, I'd appreciate your testimony. Okay, good, thank you, Steve. We'll put you in the queue. Appreciate that. Stephanie, did you have anything to add?
Well, I can say that I have heard that there are people that are being followed and things like that, but I have not experienced it myself.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so we're not gonna take action tonight, but there are 3 people that wish to speak. I'm gonna take them in order, and we're gonna start with Sarah Sage. Do you have the time? 3 minutes, guys.
Hi, I'm Sarah Sage. I've been a resident since 1907 in Val Verde. And I'm not here to talk about the very important real concerns about landfill expansion. I'm here to talk about something I intimately know about, which is the sludge allegation at Chiquita landfill. And I would like to clarify some of the things honestly and candidly with you guys today. On May 16, 2012, I sent a public request to Catherine Taylor of the City of Santa Barbara after finding online city minutes that detailed a bid renewal request for 4 years with the Chiquita Canyon landfill to accept sludge from the Cater water treatment plant. In response, I received a purchase order and a fax that verified this claim, including a fax transaction for sludge disposal at $45 per ton. I approached John Masella, the landfill's PR representative, at the CATC meeting in May of 2012. He thanked me for not bringing it up at the CATC meeting that night and assured me that what I found was concerning and aberrant, and that he would look into it immediately and get back to me, except he didn't. He spent the time between May meeting and the June meeting speaking with other council members, insisting that the sludge that was accepted was benign, and said it was nothing but concentrated minerals. The landfill and the Val Verde Community Advisory Committee continues to describe the content of the sludge as, quote, inert solids, a term a layperson, Catherine Taylor, used in the public request that was sent to me. I believe her term was meant to indicate that the sludge did not contain concentrated biological waste,